She was 36, but her heart often felt much older. Each morning she rushed through crowded trains, her coffee lukewarm by the time she reached her desk, deadlines stacked higher than the papers on her table. And even though she worked tirelessly, the satisfaction she expected never came. At night, she returned to her small apartment, the silence greeting her louder than any noise. The emptiness pressed against her, and she wondered if happiness was something meant for others but not for her. On one of those weary evenings, she sat across from her closest friend at a quiet cafe. The friend's eyes seemed brighter than she remembered, her smile carrying a kind of lightness. Curious, she asked how she managed to stay so calm despite her own troubles. The friend leaned closer and shared a simple practice she had started months ago. Each night before bed, she wrote down 3 blessings in a small notebook. They could be anything: a kind word from a coworker, the taste of a good meal, or even the sound of rain against the window. The woman laughed softly at first. It sounded too simple, almost childish. Could writing a few words on paper truly change the weight she carried every day? But something about her friend's calmness stayed with her. That night, back in her quiet apartment, she looked around. Her room felt as cold as ever, yet she opened an old notebook lying in her drawer. For a long while, the page stayed blank as her pen hesitated. Finally, she wrote the first 3 things that came to her mind: a warm cup of coffee, a brief smile from a stranger on the train, and the memory of her friend's laughter at the cafe. The words looked small, almost insignificant, but they were hers. As she closed the notebook, she felt a faint warmth, fragile like a candle in a storm. She wasn't sure if it meant anything, but it was the first time in weeks she went to bed with something softer than the heaviness she usually carried. The first week of writing in her gratitude journal felt awkward, almost forced. She would sit at her desk each night, pen hovering above the page, searching her mind for something worth writing down. Some days she scribbled quickly, listing obvious things: food on the table, a roof overhead, the fact that she had a job. Other days she stared at the paper for what felt like hours, unable to see anything good. When a particularly stressful day at work left her drained, she closed the notebook without writing at all. The silence in the room felt heavier that night, as if the empty page mirrored her own emptiness. But slowly, something began to shift. On her morning walk to the train, she noticed the way sunlight streamed through the branches of the trees. Later, she caught herself smiling at the small kindness of someone holding the elevator door for her. These moments had always been there, but now they seemed to rise to the surface, waiting to be noticed. When she wrote them down, they no longer felt small. They became reminders that even in an ordinary day, life quietly offered its gifts. Still, the process wasn't easy. There were days when her thoughts clouded with frustration, when nothing seemed worth appreciating. Those nights, she forced herself to search harder, reaching for the smallest details: the softness of her blanket, the taste of warm tea, the fact that she had made it through another day. At first it felt like stretching, but with time she realized these small acknowledgements made her heart lighter. One evening after a particularly exhausting day, she sat with her notebook open and thought, "I have nothing." But then, her eyes landed on a small vase on the windowsill. Inside it was a single flower her friend had given her the week before. Its petals were fading, but it still stood tall, catching what little light the window offered. She wrote about it, and for the first time, she understood that gratitude wasn't about waiting for grand moments. It was about seeing beauty, even in what seemed fragile and temporary. The habit was teaching her something she never expected: that happiness was not about escaping struggles, but about holding on to small sparks that could guide her through them. Weeks turned into months, and the notebook that once felt foreign began to feel like a trusted companion. Its pages filled with her words, each line a quiet witness to her journey. When she flipped back through them, she noticed how her blessings had changed. At first, they were surface-level comforts, the things she thought she was supposed to be grateful for. But slowly, they became more personal, more alive: the sound of her own laughter after a long time of silence, the way rain tapped gently on her window, the feeling of being present in a moment without rushing ahead. Life did not grow easier. Work remained demanding, and some evenings she still returned home exhausted. Yet something deep within her had shifted. The struggles no longer drowned her. Instead, she carried a softer strength, one built from the simple act of noticing and appreciating. She realized that gratitude was not about denying pain or pretending difficulties did not exist. It was about holding both the heaviness of struggle and the lightness of blessings together, side by side. One morning, while sipping coffee by the window, she felt a calmness she had never known before. The world outside was ordinary, nothing spectacular, but she felt full. She thought back to the first night she had written in her journal, unsure if it would matter. Now, months later, she understood. Happiness had never been something to chase, a prize waiting at the end of hard work. It had always been here, hidden in the folds of everyday life, waiting for her to notice. Her notebook was nearly full, but she knew this was only the beginning. She didn't write for the sake of completing pages anymore. She wrote to stay connected to the quiet truth that had transformed her life. Gratitude had taught her that joy could be found in every season, even the difficult ones. As she closed the notebook gently, she smiled, no longer afraid of emptiness. Happiness was no longer something far away. It lived within her, planted like a seed that continued to grow, nurtured by daily gratitude. Life often teaches us that happiness is something to chase, a reward waiting after we overcome every obstacle. But this story reminds us of a quieter truth. Happiness grows when gratitude is planted. Even in difficult seasons, there are always small blessings that can soften our burdens and give us strength to continue. Perhaps it is not about waiting for a perfect moment, but choosing to notice the light already around us. If this story touched you, take a moment to share your thoughts below, and consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more stories that inspire reflection and hope.